It's the meeting of South Ogden City Planning Commission for June 13th, 2024. I will entertain a motion to convene as the Planning Commission.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nobody is opposed. We are in our meeting. First, I would like to recognize a new Planning Commission member, Norbert Didier. Want to give us a little of your background? And
Moved to South Ogden 12 years ago. Was born and raised in a small town in a little ag community in north central Illinois. Attended Bradley University, went into the Air Force immediately out of college. Flew airplanes in the Air Force for 7 years, then at Delta Airlines for 35 years plus. Retired about a year and a half ago.
great. Welcome. We are going to, first item on the agenda is a public hearing. The public hearing is to receive and consider comments on whether the property at 5617 South 1475 East should be rezoned from Gateway Edge to Gateway General. I note that there are several people in the audience tonight who may or may not want to speak on this issue. I just want to advise you kind of the purpose of a public hearing. We as a planning commission make recommendations on something like this, so we can recommend that it be rezoned or not, but our recommendation then goes to the city council, and they can follow what we do or not. And so regardless of how things go tonight, it's likely to go to the, well, not likely, it would go to the city council, I believe. With that being said, also, sometimes people get a little bit confused about public hearings. A public hearing is not actually a time to have a back and forth conversation or a question and answer period. It's really just a time for us to hear what you have to say, to get your input before we make a decision. And we're happy that you're here to give that input. We like to have people come and tell us their thoughts. So that being said, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in a public hearing. Madison Merrill, city planner, is here with us remotely. I'm going to turn the time over to her first so she can give a general outline of this request, and we'll go from there.
Great, yes, so this is a request for a rezone for a property that is currently zoned as the Gateway Edge, which is made up of a smaller scale residential buildings that help create a transition area from commercial areas to single family neighborhoods. The current use of the lot is an office building, and the proposed zone change is for the Gateway General Zone, which would allow lower intensity commercial use similar to this office building and additional to some other retail uses. So, yeah.
Okay. We're doing the best we can to get, she's having a hard time hearing us, we're having a hard time hearing her, so, but we're doing the best we can to deal with that. But with her comments, I will open the meeting. If anybody wants to address us, if you can just give us your name, please, and let us know what you want to let us know on this issue. Please.
My name is Milton Meekum, and I live in South Ogden at 1415 East, 5600 South. So I'm almost, my backyard is almost opposite of the parcel in question. Is the owner of that, or the new purchaser, here with us tonight?
He is apparently, yes.
So can we address questions to him
If-
or her?
You could separately, or the owner can come up and make comments or a presentation if they want, but you can ask your question here, and they may want to come up and answer it, but
Okay. Well, my question is, what is the proposed usage of the property? Does it necessitate this change in zoning to accommodate it? And a description probably of what the anticipated building that goes on there or whatever is, we understand, would like to understand what that means. I'm sorry, I couldn't really understand what she said about the change of the, I can see where this little piece sits right in front of two areas that have already zoned the proposed change. So this is just this small piece, but it makes, what happens here is, that concerns me is that now with that rezoning and the additional rezoning could change the usage of the whole thing. We could end up with something, not just doing something with the existing property, but tearing down or other things and build another dog pound.
right.
So I may have other questions, but those are my questions.
And I can fill you in a little bit as to what Ms. Merrill said. Way back when this was developed, this was an R4 zone with the I don't know if they're condos or apartments next to it. Is that correct, Lisa? And the use was conditional on the property looking like a house, but it could be used as an office use. Then we changed the zoning in the city to a form-based code. And so it's currently zoned what we call Gateway Edge, which would be smaller scale residential buildings which are intended to provide a buffer between existing family residential and commercial districts. They're asking that it be changed to a Gateway General, which is intended to be kind of a lower intensity of building to provide a buffer between residences and commercial uses, but it would, I guess, increase the possibilities of what could be done to that property in a commercial use.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
6:24 p.m.
Oh, that's nice. Mr. Gaylor, do we have anybody online? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have. Okay. Other comment? Did you want to address that?
Sam? Hi, I'm Kip Cashmore, and I'm the owner of that property. We have several commercial properties in South Ogden City. Actually, our office sits right next to South Ogden City water tanks in the big white buildings there. And Nelson Holmes actually moved up there. He's my son-in-law as well, so kind of kept it in the family. And Zan is my son-in-law, and I'm getting him used to coming in front of boards like this. So anyway, thank you for spending a minute with us. We'd just like to let you know that our intent is to not change the building or the look of the building. It's simply to be able to have confidence in leasing the building and be able to get tenants that don't have to come in and get, some kind of a special use permit, because there's very few uses in the current zoning. I mean, there's like hardly any according to what you have listed here. So we see it staying very similar to the same. We see it going as a doctor's office, dentist's office, something professional, accounting. You know, we have the big 5-story office building on Harrison as well. And, you know, so we have the ability to attract good tenants. I know that he mentioned, and there was some people that were interested to do a veterinary clinic there, and I've got no issues with veterinary clinic other than the barking, you know. And there is one there, and I was fixing some sprinklers the other day, and holy moly, I could hear those dogs just a yapping and a yapping. So we're not going to do that, you know, to the residents, and, you know, I'm fine if you even want to put something in, hey, it's approved, but, you know, no dog park. So we had talked
I
to,
believe it was a Mark. Is he a city planner in South Ogden as well?
Yes, Mark Vlasic.
We spoke with him, and he looked at the zoning and really what Gateway Edge is, and it's not high-density housing, but it's, you can see it on the plat map, it's a bunch of very small little single-family homes. And he thought that this might have actually been missed in one of the rezones just because of the natural way it flows in with right across the street. We agreed that the Gateway Core would be a little bit too expansive, but Gateway General added just enough. Really gives it an option. I mean, it adds anything from a flower shop to a bike repair place. It just doesn't really hold you into whatever office space could fit in the look.
Okay,
happy to answer any questions.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the public?
Hi, everyone. My name is Pablo Carbajal. This is my wife, Stephanie Carbajal, and we are actually looking to purchase that building, I assume from you guys? Nice to meet you. What we are looking to do, of course, is not to change the use of the building or the look of the building, but we are professional counselors. And we are planning on having our admin staff be there and to do one-on-one counseling. It would be our 4th location. And we focus on kids 4 to 11 years of age. And we have a really robust staff. So it would not be a dog pound. It would not be anything that would require any adjustments or renovations to the building. And certainly it would not be a nuisance to any neighbors.
I think what I would add to that is we actually love that it looks like a home. It's very warm and inviting, and for our clients and the type of work that we do with kids and families who've experienced traumatic things or are dealing with challenges in their life, it's a very warm, inviting environment for them. So we love that space.
Yeah, we love it as is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So can I ask a quick question about that? So the current zoning, can I ask?
Sure.
The current zoning, wouldn't it be permissive of what their intended use is?
So you're correct. If they were to purchase it, the zone would not need to change.
Thank you.
I'd have to look at the uses, but it's an office use. And as long as it's an office use, bring it up.
As part of our due diligence, we've already submitted and received a business license because our use is exactly what it's currently zoned for. I don't know if you're Lisa, is that correct? But I think we've spoken a couple of times on the phone, so. Anyway, we just wanted you to, we heard a veterinarian clinic, we heard other things as well, but we just wanted to come up and say that's our intended use.
Okay, thank you. Other comment?
So my name is Bruce Gustavusson.
I'm Leah Hansen. We actually are neighbors,
in the Main Point Townhomes, which my front door kind of faces that building. Okay. And and I'm on the HOA board, well, actually Bruce and I both are. And we had a lot of very nervous neighbors because we had, of course, heard the veterinary clinic rumor. And, you know, sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, we're awakened by the dogs barking. And the sidewalk that goes directly in front of my front door is where the kids come and walk down and are on the bus, get off the bus for school every day. And we were just really concerned with, one, the disruption. We already have enough from the dogs barking at the one across the street. We just didn't want that. We didn't want increased traffic. But from what I'm hearing right now, from the potential buyers, my opinion would totally change, whether it needs to be rezoned or not. I think that would be an ideal use of an empty building. And we'd, you know, see some productivity there for the county, or the city rather, and that would be a very positive influence in the area and would do great things, and I would be very in favor of what they are proposing to do. We just don't want it to be some crazy thing. And I think the biggest problem is we're not really sure exactly what the zoning changing would allow. You know, what could go in there? And of course, everyone first knee-jerk reaction thinks worst case scenario. What would be the worst thing that could happen? And they're thinking, and honestly, with Nielsen Homes, we had a lot of traffic. So I think we'd probably have less traffic and less issues with what the potential buyers are wanting to do. So I would be in favor of whether it needs to change or not. So I'm just gonna throw my towel in their corner if that's what they.
One of the things that was nice about the Nielsen Home office space there is that they kept it very nice. It was very conducive to the neighborhood. When you think retail, like Leah just said, you think the worst case scenario. What can, you know, we can have a big neon Taco Bell sign there, which probably would not be the case. But something, and this is why I thought, why can't we keep the zoning the same and just use that as an office building and just continue that neighborhood setting? Because Nielsen Homes was very, very committed to keeping it very nice. It was just like, you know, one of the homes there. And with the retail, a couple of things that really quickly came to my mind is, and Leah talked about the kids, there's a bus stop right there on the east, on 1475. Yeah. And so the retail brings some more traffic into that area. There's kids crossing the street going to the park. And there was another thing too is, so with the traffic, we've got the restaurant, we've got Maria's on the corner, which is, you know, it's fun to hear some of the music and things like that.
Till all hours of the night.
But it does require a little bit more of a police presence at times. They've had a little bit of riffraff going on at times, and I'm not saying that's connected with the restaurant itself, but I think just the loitering and the things like that, like the Albertson or the Fresh Market parking lot, that, you know, there's a space for them to congregate and things like that. So those are just a couple concerns that I've heard that we have, that, you know, we don't mind things going in there, but I don't know if we need to change it to encompass like retail and services, what services companies that would increase the flow and the riffraff, so.
Well, I think as a community, in our townhome community, we're the closest of anyone. And literally, I'm less than 50 yards from the building. And we as an HOA board in that community are trying very hard to make our place look nicer, to kind of improve the situation, to, I don't know, make it a place where it's family friendly and also well kept up. And So we're looking to have that, as Bruce was saying, remain the same with the former Nielsen Homes mentality of how they kept that up and how it was a place that no one was afraid to be around and just a safe place for our kids, and to also keep that quality of the building, not let things get run down, and just, improve that corner of South Ogden. So, anyway. thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
thank you.
So maybe the confusion, if I look at this of what you can do, office is not even allowed in that zone. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we're here, is to make sure that this clinic, which I think is extremely needed right now, doesn't have an issue to be able to do that. And so this is what we pulled off of your website. And even a clinic, hospital and clinic, if it fits into that category, they'd need to come in and get a conditional use permit just for that. So that's why we put this in, to rezone it, to make sure that, and according to what we had understood from your planner, or one of them anyway, that they thought this would be a good fit for this property. And thank you for that support, by the way, because I think they would be awesome. And it's not going to go dogs. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I've known Bruce Nielsen for many years. I ran the mortgage operation for the Bank Utah, so I'm very familiar with him and his company. And I know a lot about Kip. He's a decent, honest guy that I think has already shown where he's been excellent at developing properties. So from the standpoint of his integrity, I endorse him.
Thank you.
One additional comment, if I may, and I appreciate the support in this open discussion. I guess as the new purchasers, right, this is a multi-decade commitment for us. So if there are any issues with permissible use or not, right, we just can't get a license this year and then all of a sudden it's not renewed in May of 2025, right? So we need to know that we can move forward with confidence and with longevity.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Any other comment from the public? Do we have any online comment? Okay. That being the case, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public hearing is closed at this point. We won't take more comment on that. If you see something in our discussions that raises something for you, there is a public comment period at the end of the agenda, but otherwise, we don't take additional comment on this particular item. So, next item is item number 3, zoning items, discussion or recommendation on the property located at 5617 South, 1475 East. Commissioners, I will turn it over to you, get your thoughts on that issue.
One question I had is, Kip, sorry, I forgot your last name, mentioned that an office isn't even allowed in there right now. Is that true? Because wasn't Nilsen's home an office?
Correct, so because the zoning changed while the office was there, the current zone doesn't allow an office use. However, the use is grandfathered in. So anything in our current zone that's listed under office would be allowed. And that's that right there. If you if you want it. I can, so the typical office uses: architecture, engineering design, building contractor, office only. So they can't have like trucks and things, or their piles of 2x4s or whatever. Anyway, business consulting, charitable institutions, computer programming and support, detective services, educational services, employment agency. I'm gonna go skip down. One of them is a medical and dental with a laboratory, so,
So all these things can't be,
can be,
Can-
so that
because
you
they're,
can,
because they're grandfathered in.
correct,
Is that considered a conditional use?
yes. So, so for example, I think there was someone who was interested in putting a vet office in there. However, I believe that's kind of where maybe some of the confusion is, because a vet office is actually under,
Veterinarians was above that.
right up,
Very,
yes,
very
yeah,
last
see, it's under a different category, it's under the neighborhood, it's under a service category, so that's why that would not be allowed there. However, if you change the zoning, then it would.
So I guess I'm a little confused on, it's grandfathered in. Does that being grandfathered in extend if it gets sold to someone else, or when it gets sold?
So as long as that use, let's say that no one wanted to lease it for a year or more, then that grandfathered use would go away if it stayed vacant. And then nothing in the current zoning, it could only be used for residential uses. So somebody might buy it for a house and remodel it or something. Or they could buy the land and put a couple of townhomes on it.
Oh, so how it's zoned right now, it's only for homes. That's what we're saying.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's where I'm looking for some clarification too.
So what she's saying is that it is zoned residential right now. However, because the use was commercial, it's grandfathered in, and it stays, that grandfather stays in place as long as there's a business in there. If there is not a business in there for over a year, then that use goes away. So if they were to,
When he says business, it's office.
office,
Yeah.
excuse me, for an office, yes. So if they were to buy it for their counseling office, that use would stay in place for as long as they were there. If they moved out and it stayed vacant for a year, then that use would go away. Does that make sense?
And if it
Yeah.
was rezoned and they moved out, then it's open to all of those other categories of businesses,
Correct.
including retail and so forth.
Correct, or they wouldn't have to move out if they decided to change businesses and it was rezoned, then all those other things are now applicable.
Can I jump in here real fast? Can you hear me?
We can, I was just about to ask you to do so, so.
I'm just looking at the code, at the table of uses for each subdistrict, and I actually do see, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that in the Edge District, office is a permitted use with development standards.
I believe those standards are that the owner has to live there and the office isn't part of the building. So like, an attorney could live there and his office could be in the building. And that's the only,
Okay.
Okay, great. That makes sense.
So if we do rezone this, could someone mentioned like neon signs, like a Taco Bell. Like a Taco Bell couldn't be put there, could it, if it gets rezoned?
Yes.
But if we left it the way it is right now, it's still permitted, office is still permitted, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But a Taco Bell could go in if it wanted to.
If we rezone.
If you rezone.
And Milson was granted a conditional use permit in an area that was zoned residential.
Correct.
So they were given that conditional use permit at that time.
I guess the part where I'm struggling a little bit is if we do change it, I mean, I think these folks are all well-intentioned, but 10 years, 20 years down the road, say they decide to move their business and we've opened it up, then these neighbors, who knows who will buy it and what they'll do with it. So, I mean, that's where I'm personally struggling.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it right now. I don't know what the benefit of rezoning it is if we can move in there and use office. Right?
Except as Commissioner Bruder said, if this didn't work out, then
Right.
the owners are restricted in what they can do it,
Well,
other than office use.
does it kind of set a precedent where if we grant a conditional use permit to allow, a variance, that then, later on, that they just are going to try to change it once again to, keep moving it toward, general core? Is that what allows anything in a zoning area? Any kind of business?
There's nothing that says, so we cannot give a conditional use for this. Our code right now does not allow that.
But-
Unless it specifically says you can get a conditional use, but it doesn't say here
Right.
that that this is a conditional use. It is a permitted use because it's grandfathered in.
So it's kind of what my thoughts are. It sounds like what these folks, like they have a buyer, these people want to buy it, and they can use it for their intended use. But then if they do decide to sell, maybe our best course of action is not to rezone it. So then if someone does want to reuse it, they would have to come back to us for another stop and consider point, is kind of what I'm.
That's kind of my thought also.
That's how I understood it too.
One possibility is simply to move to continue the rezone to another date. I think we would be doing it backwards, to be honest, if we did it that way, because I don't really think we're supposed to be considering possible uses. I mean, who's purchasing and so forth, but I mean, it's all out in the open now of what everybody's intending to do, so we could set this on the calendar next month, see if there's a contract and a purchase agreement on the property, and maybe that makes a difference to people. I don't.
So can I just ask a question about?
You need to come up.
So the confusion is, and I'm fine if we don't rezone it, if it's okay to use. Our understanding is when you look at medical with laboratory in it, right? I mean, that was what, so we didn't feel that that was a accepted use under the current. So if it is, it's mute to me unless these guys are wanting to do something else, and we do have a contract signed with them, pending some due diligence, and this is one of them. So,
Gotcha.
so that's my question, is the confusion is, are they allowed under this current grandfathered statute to
Right.
be there for 30 years?
And I think we've gotten that, right, Lisa? Like, we're okay.
We feel confident that would be allowed?
Yes.
They're grandfathered in, so we're confident it's allowed.
And they have their license, because I looked at all of this
Right.
and said, yes, it, as an office use.
want to keep going with it? Otherwise, I can pull it. Are you happy with that?
Well, if If I might.
Because I was just gonna make it easy. If they're happy with it, I could just say, hey, I don't want to change it anymore, and you guys can move on, and I apologize for wasting everybody's time, but.
No,
There's no waste of
it's-
time.
No, it's a great point. I went through the website as well, and that was part of our discussion on the phone, was that we're not allowed, and there was that 12-month period.
You are allowed.
Within that period? Or we are allowed?
You
Sure.
are allowed
Okay. With the grandfathering?
Yes.
Right.
He's saying that he's within the 12-month period, so they are allowed. That's what he's trying to say.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yes, correct.
In terms of tabling it to July, for us, we need to make a decision prior to then. We need to close
Sure.
right about the same time
I
as
understand.
you would meet. So we're hoping to get some type of resolution. If we're able to have a counseling office there, we don't have to change the architecture, we don't have to change the use. There'll be adults there, there'll be kids there. It's just an office. As Nilsson used it, just, we wouldn't be building any homes, we'd be
Right.
helping people.
And I think the
with
good
lives.
news for you is your use would be allowed either way.
Right,
So,
right, yes. No, that'd be excellent. And then I guess in 10 or 20 years when we sell, then we'll be sitting there and wondering if we need to rezone as well, right? I guess
that's
we're
correct.
pushing the can down the road in a ways, but hopefully that road is long and
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you.
My sense is that we're ready to vote, unless you're,
Another quick question, is there a way to get them something in writing from the city? I mean, it sounds like they have a lot on the business stills.
They have their business license, so if it wasn't allowed, they would not be
Okay.
allowed a business license. So the fact that they have a business license shows that they're allowed.
that being the case, I will entertain a motion, one way or the other, to either approve the rezoning or deny the rezoning, or to table it.
I move that at this time we deny the request to rezone the property at 5617 South, 1475 East.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This calls for a roll call vote. Commissioner Didier,
Deny.
Commissioner Bruder,
You mean yes, or?
Okay, yes.
I took it that way, but I guess we should clarify, yes. Commissioner Bruder,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
and my vote is necessary, I think, so yes. So, there you are.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Let's move forward with Roman numeral 4, special items. 4A, a discussion and recommendation on whether the city should vacate a portion of Chimes View Circle. Ms. Kapatanoff.
So, Young Auto purchased the properties all around Chimes View except for 2. And they are wanting to vacate the portion of Chimes View that they own the property on either side of. So they're at sorry. We have received their site plan to show what they want to do with the area, and so that's under consideration right now, but we could approve that whether or not we do vacate Chimes View Drive or not. However, it was always their intent, that at some point they would have all the properties and that all of Chimes View would be vacated. But at this point, they're only asking for a portion.
Okay. So in order to vacate a property, we have to make a finding on two different things. One, if there's good cause, does good cause exist for vacating it? And secondly, whether the public interest or any person will be materially injured by vacating the property. So call for discussion on that item. Any discussion?
Will anyone be hurt by it? I don't,
From my perspective, I don't see that anybody is materially injured because the other two properties, owners can still access their property. But maybe somebody sees something I don't. So.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I think, Zach, is that right? I am just curious, there is some access to the apartments to the northeast? And
Yeah, exactly. To the northeast, there is an access
Can
drive
you
that services Matthews Town. Sorry about that.
Give us your name, please.
So yeah, Zach Swenson. I represent the Young Automotive Group on this project. To Brian's point, there is a service drive that provides access to that apartment building, the Rainier Apartments. That has been shifted, relocated, but the agreement and easement remains essentially. We've pushed it to the far side, northeast side of the property, to allow for more of the dealership, the proposed dealership, to, I guess, have its parking lot and staging for the vehicles that will be for sale. As for the portion of Chimes View that is to be vacated, or that we're requesting to be vacated, we can't really, or haven't wanted to vacate the portions in front of these homes just because we still need to maintain access to the site, the properties that we do own. And so, especially on that front edge with Riverdale Road, if we have that vacated, very quickly UDOT goes and shuts that access down. And so it just becomes a challenge for us to have those portions vacated at this point. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. We kind of figured this would be a pretty straightforward approval, just where we own both sides of that road, and where neither of those owners lose access to their main commuting road. So yeah, happy to answer any questions if you guys have any. I appreciate you guys having me here.
I guess I have a question. Are any of those owners opposing this, or are they okay with it?
Yeah, to my knowledge, they're okay with it. None, I mean, they aren't here tonight, and they did receive the notices for the planning commission to come and attend.
That's not the break. So that's a.
Or is that just for city council that received notices?
Not this.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess I can't speak for those individuals who aren't here.
Does the city know, is there anyone opposing this? I guess I'm trying to, are there any downsides to this, or?
So, because the public hearings can be held before the city council, you're only supposed to look at it from a land use point of view and give a recommendation, because we don't know if those people are opposed to it or not.
So we're looking strictly on whether there's good cause and whether anybody will be materially injured by vacating the property.
And if you vote either way, or if you vote that it should be vacated, and then a public hearing is held and someone comes forward with a concern, then the city council would address that concern at that time, and they could overturn it based on that.
Okay.
And just full disclosure, I know Zach, I work for CIR Engineering, and I'm not working on this project with Zach, but we have worked with Stoke Stevenson on several projects over the last little while. So just a full disclosure to everybody here. But I mean, I've reviewed this. I mean, other than that access, I would imagine you're just changing access for the apartments to give them access in another way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can
Yes, go
lose
ahead.
that. Yes, that is, thank you. So, they have purchased all of these properties right here, including this. So, the only properties that they don't own is this one right here and this one right here.
And they still
there
have
used to be-
access
There
to,
used to be an access to the apartments right here. You can see it
yeah.
right
Yeah.
there. But now they're putting in an access. They've torn down this home right here and they're putting the access right here. It'll come off of
That's the
Chimes View
red.
Drive.
This red line here, that's the new access.
Correct. Approximately, it's not a perfect drawing. But there already has been a boundary line adjustment for those homes that's been approved, and I believe that as of today got recorded. So that allows now for that access to be placed there.
So which property?
We do own, the Young Automotive Group also does own all of those homes that border that new access as well,
Right here,
on Sylvia Drive.
yeah.
So what, if you could show me on the mouse, what is actually being vacated then again?
So, Chimes View Drive, just the portions
Between
where
Chimes
we
View
own on
Circle.
both sides. Yeah, Chimes View Circle,
From
just the
right
portions where we own on
there.
both sides.
to right,
In essence, the accesses for those individuals are unchanged. They still have their driveway and they still have the Chimes View Circle right-of-way that they can access through. We're just proposing that on our portions where we kind of have control on each side or have maybe more of a say, that portion be vacated. And more specifically, I guess, once vacated, that right-of-way no longer becomes is the obligation of the city to maintain. It'll be, improved and become a part of that dealership. I don't know if you've been there recently, but it's under construction. It's maybe 65% of the way through the construction process. So it's been a work in progress. I know the Young Automotive Group has spent, 3 or 4 years trying to assemble all of these properties with the ultimate goal to have their dealership placed here. So there's been a very considerable amount of money. And we have talked with Barry Bigler and John Malin, who own both of those properties on many occasions. They're great people. I don't think they intend to sell, at least at a price that's reasonable for anyone. So, yeah, that's essentially the concession that we've arrived at is they're fine to stay there. We're not trying to force anyone out. But if we can just vacate this portion, we can make our site plan work for the time being until maybe they are interested in selling.
So if that land is not, if the decision is not to vacate, what would you guys do?
It would be a really janky site, right? Like you would have a parking lot on one side and a parking lot on the other. And you'd have just an old right-of-way that's maintained by the city through there. I mean, we can technically make things work. But I think kind of the overall intent of Riverdale Road is to be the commercial center of South Ogden City. And so I very much feel that Chimes View Drive, when it was constructed to service residential homes and provide access, it served its purpose. But with all those homes now being acquired, and this area being a commercial corridor, this kind of fits in or falls in line with that intent of the zoning.
Okay.
And if I just might add, I've researched this road. It's not even an officially dedicated road. It's a deed from like 1929.
Oh, it's old. It is. The
And-
right of way, the standards are tiny, it's super skinny.
Yeah, it doesn't even fit the
It's
current
truly like an
location of the road.
alleyway.
But it gives people access from Riverdale Road over that, I don't know what that other road is there. Chimes View Drive. So
So this is Chimes View Circle, and this is Chimes View Drive.
Drive, right. And I understand too, I mean, if you don't get rid of this, you'll have the public running through this site.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Brian, like you have commuter roads and you have local roads. Local roads are intended to get an individual to their actual home. But now where there aren't individuals that are trying to get to their home through this road, it no longer serves the purpose of a local road. And just, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense. And you have two main thoroughfares that service the remaining lots adjacent in Chimes View Drive and Riverdale Road.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion on that item?
Another thought I have, though, is just with our general plan and making our city a walkable city. I know we're talking about like driving and access, but again, this would be giving up more footpaths. I mean, right now, if it's walkable, right now, I could walk through there. If we vacate it, I mean, I know it's not
You
terribly.
might roll your ankle. It's pretty old. It's busted up and it needs some serious love to make it a main walkable thoroughfare. Just, I guess, in full transparency.
Do we have any trails that like this could connect to? I mean,
Trails?
I
No.
don't think there are any.
No.
Sorry, right?
And it doesn't really have much sidewalk either. Like it was done at a time where right-of-way standards like we know them today didn't really exist. So you don't have the typical width and then the park strip and then the nice 5-foot sidewalk. Like that's not really a thing through here. Nor do I think there's many people that would go that route to begin with,
No,
being their intent to get to Riverdale Road or some of these main areas.
Now that when the city vacates, do they sell it, or do they just say, oh, you can have it?
No, so by law, we have to give half of it to who owns the property on one
Oh, yeah,
side
that's
and
right, you
half
said
to the
that.
other. So we get no money, they get land,
But you remove
they
the
also have to
liability of
maintain it.
taking care of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
they
don't
get
have
to
to take
approve
care
it,
of it
yeah.
anymore. And it's not our property, so if somebody got hurt on it, we don't have to pay for it or whatever.
So they buy it, they're gonna make that part really nice, then does just the rest of it around where those other homes are just still look like in disrepair? Is that?
You said it.
I guess the only real disadvantage I can see is for the house that's on the top of the picture. He's got to get onto Riverdale Road where there's no light.
Which it is an insurance business. It's not actually a
Okay.
residential home.
Okay.
So it's right here.
But yeah, I think he's referring to the Barry Bigler's
If you
lot
go a
up
little
on the top on Riverdale
Oh.
Road, the red roof.
The red roof.
Oh, got
Yeah, so
ya.
it is a commercial. It's in a home. It's a little bit weird, but it's an insurance office.
So instead of
Which
coming
actually
to it from
conveniently
behind,
for
yeah.
like a dealership, like it doesn't necessarily conflict with what we're trying to do because you might just have more business that you can go write insurance for these these cars that are being purchased. And I'm not part of the operations group, so I don't really know that world, but. Appreciate you guys. If you have any
Okay.
more questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So you are looking for a recommendation on this, so I will entertain a motion to recommend vacation of that piece of property right of way, or not.
I move that we vacate a portion of Chimes View Drive.
Circle. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we need a roll call vote? Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder,
Yes.
Commissioner Didier.
Yes.
And I say yes as well. Let's move to item number 2.
Yep, thank you.
Vacation of portion of an alley between Porter and Jefferson, access from 37th Street. I also need a recommendation on this. Call for discussion on that item. From my perspective, 3 of the 4 owners are in favor of this. We just don't know what the other one is in favor of. The rest of the alley is already vacated. Again, we're looking for whether there's good cause to vacate it and if the public interest is injured or any person is injured by vacating it. So that's our focus. Questions, comments?
I'm happy to speak on behalf of it.
Would you give us your name, please? And
Absolutely. My name is Mitchell Burke. So I'm kind of the one that tried to coordinate a little bit with my neighbors about getting the petition signed to get this right-of-way vacated in the first place. Originally, I'd talked to these neighbors about 3 years ago when we moved into our home that we purchased. We're just there on 3690 Porter Avenue. The 2 homes to the north of me, you know, it's vacated to them. I'm not sure if it shows appropriately on this map here.
It doesn't, so you have to go, this shows that this hasn't been vacated yet, but it has. But if you look on the search and rent, then it does.
Perfect. Very nice. So just beyond that home there, they actually don't have it fenced off. They never, you know, moved their fence line like most people have typically done with the alleyway here. But for all intents and purposes, you know, really all that the alleyway collects is weeds and garbage. You know, no one really takes care of it there, and so between me and Mr. Hanson there on the corner there, we've kind of split the responsibility of trying to maintain, you know, a somewhat clean looking alleyway. You know, we mow the weeds back there, and you know, we try to make it nice. The people in question that we are unable to, you know, ascertain if they want it closed or not, it is them in that corner there. It's a rental property. They own both of the homes right there that are adjacent to my house there. So I have not been able to get in contact with the owners there. So I don't know what their true opinion on that is.
Mr. Burke, does anybody have a garage that is accessed from that alley?
Great question. So that rental property there is a garage door. I'm unaware if it's used at all. I've never seen a car back there.
Okay.
So you're saying along here they have a garage door?
That is correct.
But
Is
they
there
also-
access? Oh,
They also have an access right here.
Yes.
so they can access that garage from someplace else?
Yes, that's correct.
Other discussion, questions? Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Thank you.
So would the alleyway be used to access that one garage? And if, I mean, that criteria is that no one can be, I guess, injured or whatnot, I don't know what the language was, but if we vacate that and this person hasn't had a chance to weigh in and maybe we're cutting them off from a right-of-way, could that happen?
Possibly, yeah. Unless they have room here to put a driveway. Well, they'll actually end up getting half of it, half this alleyway.
But would that half be enough to,
That's,
They're gonna have to turn into the garage. so-
yeah.
Yeah, generally, the alleys are 16 and a half feet wide, so they get about 8 feet, more or less, 8 and a quarter.
I believe this is 20.
So they get about 10 feet.
But Lisa, isn't this the same where they're making a recommendation?
Correct.
And so if that were the case, then that person would be notified that this was going in front of the council, and he would have a chance to come and make his case at that point in time, if that's the direction he chose to go.
so we as the planning commission don't need to worry about that?
You're just strictly looking at, yeah, just the land use, and, I mean, I guess you could potentially look at, is he being harmed? But ultimately, you're not making the decision.
Okay,
It's the council would be the ones who made that decision, if it went that direction.
so could I make a motion with the caveat that no one's being harmed?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, I move that we approve the vacation with the caveat that no one is being harmed and this, that we look into this garage and make sure that that particular landowner isn't, can still use their garage.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Commissioner Bruderer.
Yes?
Commissioner Didier.
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes.
And I say yes as well. Okay, item 4B, discussion on ordinance to allow chickens. Is Madison still with us?
She is.
All right, so staff has drafted an ordinance to permit the keeping of chickens in South Ogden, and this is in respondents to a series of events that have happened over the past couple months. The first being that some residents approached the city council requesting that the city legalize the keeping of birds such as chickens. And so since there has been 2 staff reports looking at kind of the history of South Ogden's lack of a chicken ordinance and also what other comparable municipalities are doing around the keeping of birds and chickens. And then last month we had a public hearing, and then the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation to the City Council for the permitting of chickens with, a list of recommendations of restrictions, including that only hens are allowed, so no roosters. There's a limited number of chickens according to the lot size. Chickens must be kept in a coop, so no free roaming. And there also needs to be coop size and characteristic requirements. They must be located in the backyard and have setbacks from the building and property lines. They can't be slaughtered on site. And there also must be a permit required for any resident to keep chickens. And the City Council agreed with the Planning Commission's recommendation and requested that an ordinance be developed with the addition of 2 more items to cover, which is the coop height limit and also making sure that chicken feed is secured. And so, yeah, and it also should be noted that, last month, there was also a lot of talk about enforcement of this code, along with, just in general, all other South Ogden City codes. But it was, determined that enforcement is sort of a separate issue that will be addressed at a different time. So yes, there in the packet, there is a draft ordinance that talks about all of those items that both you all and the City Council requested. And yes, you can either, decide what revisions need to be made, and we can continue to discuss it, or it can go before a public hearing next month.
Madison, what other communities surrounding South Ogden allow the chickens?
What other, sorry, repeat that?
What other communities around South Ogden allow chickens?
I believe all of them but Washington Terrace.
Okay.
The only two in Utah that didn't allow them. Is that true?
That is true.
So, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that if we approve this draft ordinance, we still go back to a public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I personally don't have any problem with the ordinance as written. I think it follows what we recommended with those two additions, which I don't have an issue with. We probably should have put that in the first place. So, but open it for discussion.
Reading through it, I like it. I don't have any.
Yeah, I don't, where did the lots, where did the lot size and the max number of chickens come from? Is that just a number?
Yeah, it was based on a couple other cities' ordinances. I believe it was maybe Murray's and then, yeah, there was one other. They were contained, in the report last month that looked at the different kind of cities' ordinances. And, there was some, discrepancy between the ordinances of just like, some from 6,000 to 10,000 square feet, some only allowed 2 chickens, where another ordinance allowed 4. So I think, it is up for discussion about, what you all feel comfortable with for each lot size. But this is at least a good starting point and kind of what me and Mark thought might be appropriate.
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a motion.
I move that we accept the proposed ordinance to allow chickens as stated in our packet.
So we do have to have a public hearing on this. So
Oh.
maybe set the date for the public hearing.
Do I do that first, or?
Yeah, and then after the public hearing, then you'll give your recommendation.
Okay.
So we're
So,
just discussing it today, no recommendation today?
Correct. Did I put recommendation on the?
No, you just put discussion.
Okay.
I was just moving things along.
Well, yeah, good.
so I move that we have a public hearing for, I guess, July. I don't know the date, but our July Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, have a motion, is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor of setting this issue for public hearing on our July meeting, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Sorry, is it too late to ask a question about that?
Go ahead, it's okay.
I'm just reading through this. I don't know if there's any recommendation for like no roosters, but is that something we can discuss in that
I
meeting?
think that was one of the conditions.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
there.
It's in the,
That's an important condition.
yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm kind of done with the chicken thing already.
it's at the
but-
very beginning.
Yeah.
I grew up on a street with 2 people that had like 20 or 30 chickens, but no roosters, and it was never a problem.
Okay. Item 4C, approval of wording for the top priority catalytic project. Madison, this one is yours as well, I think.
Yes, so catalytic projects are, I guess, sort of action items that were outlined in the general plan. And recently, the Planning Commission and City Council got together and talked about their priority projects from the general plan, particularly in relation to South Ogden City Center. So the kind of action item here that we're trying to move forward is the creation of a small area plan, and Wasatch Front Regional Council has funding available to the city to help develop a small area plan for South Ogden City Center. So the following statement is a combination of these catalytic projects in the general plan, with the idea that all these elements can then be included in the small area plan. So if you find this appropriate, then we'll move forward to work with Wasatch Front Regional Council to get an application in to try to secure funding for the creation of a small area plan.
Okay. Any suggestions or proposed changes to the wording here on this catalytic project? This arose out of our joint meeting with the city council
Yes.
on where we had a presentation from, one of those cities down in the Salt Lake area.
Mill Creek.
Mill Creek, there you go. And on what they had done is similar for a city center, and then we discussed it. This was a kind of a joint agreement as to where to start, and this is the first phase of starting. So, any suggested changes or issues with the wording as it is? I do not have any, but. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve or not the wording on the catalytic project number 1.
I move to approve the wording for the catalytic project.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Nomination of election of a chair and vice chair for the Planning Commission. Maybe we've all been through this, but it is an open nomination process. You can nominate anyone, you can nominate yourself. But I suppose we would do the chair first. But before I open it for nominations, I would like you to consider, I don't even know if we can do this, but I was going to say, I would like you to consider putting this off for a month, only to have the full commission here.
Then we can't vote on it when they're not.
And maybe they won't be here. Maybe I'm dreaming on that because we we haven't had a full commission for a minute. But
It's true. We just had, on Tuesday, there's someone that's going to be presented to the city council to fill the last position. So we will have at the next month's meeting, we'll have them all in, whether they'll all be here or not, I don't know.
okay, that's my thought. I don't know if I can make a motion. Can I make a motion?
I'll make a motion to put this off until the next planning commission meeting.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I was kind of looking forward to.
Nominating those
To
that are
nominate
here.
the people who aren't here?
Nominate the new guy.
I was going to text Commissioner Mills and say, this is how you got to be the vice chair, so you might want to.
Yeah.
But, okay. Item number 5, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion or changes to those minutes? I do not have any. This was the meeting on chickens.
I'll move that we accept the planning commission notes from the May 9th, 2024 planning commission minute.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we have anybody online? We have 4 viewers. For those of you who are online, we have a couple of staff reports which will likely not take very long, and then other business, and then a time period for public comment. So if you have any public comment, which would be any issue that you want to comment on, or you would like us to know about, please make that comment now by typing it into the chat online, and we will have it read during the public comment period. So this is your opportunity if you're online and want to comment. So item number 6, staff reports. Lisa.
So the site plan for 3848 and 3850 Washington Boulevard, these are both buildings owned by the same person. One is an insurance building. I can't remember what the other one is. He wanted to put the train, not train, you could put them on, what are they called? You could put them on boats, or they use them to haul things. Sometimes they build houses out of them. They're the containers, the
Connex
shipping
boxes.
containers.
They're Connex boxes.
Yes. And we looked and we don't have anything left to it. So we had to offer it, but we will be electing the constable in.
So they're proposing to tear down existing buildings? Or?
No, they just want to use these to store things in the back. So this is just for storage. Let me show you what page it's on here.
So they're houses, aren't they?
No,
Shipping containers.
they're shipping
No, I mean
containers.
the existing property.
The existing property are houses, but they're being used
Run
for
as
business.
business,
Yeah,
So I just want to put these in the back for storage.
correct. So this is what,
It's like a shed.
get my,
Maybe
That
we
was
ought to
right.
consider whether we allow that. For
yes,
the future.
exactly. That is what will hold. There's what it is.
At least it's a nice one. Oh.
And so the site plan just shows it. They want to put, sorry, it's just frozen.
I personally think they look terrible.
And that's why we want to bring it before you, so that this won't happen again.
I agree, yeah. Doesn't look good from the road.
So this is behind the building though, right? It's
Right, they do have to be behind. There it goes.
What is on the
But-
back side of that property?
It's an alleyway.
An alleyway, yeah.
It's an alleyway.
I see.
Although I do feel they look terrible. I also believe in
And
property
on the other
rights.
side of the alley is what?
Houses?
Houses, they're the
Backyards of
backyards.
houses?
So anyway, we had to approve it because there was nothing that said that they couldn't be there. So, yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. The next one, This is not responding, as you can see, a little message. 825 40th Street, this was a single-family home. It's in the 40th Street General Subdistrict and Subdistrict. They want to have the duplex to 2, which they've been approached with. I mean, they've been granted, they had to add 1 more parking space to be able to have the duplex. And they did create that, so staff did approve it.
Okay.
Just as a side note, since I guess the person who's developing it is doing some of the work himself, and he's been there, and he's approached the city with another site plan that has a back out lane in the front yard, so that people can, instead of having to back onto the 40th, that it would lodge that. So it's, and so staff said, no, you can't do that. And so he has taken it to, he's appealed that decision, and that will be heard on Tuesday. See what happens. 701 40th Street, this is the old, it's not the gas station, it's, I don't know what used to be there.
Wasn't it that guy that got closed down and he had the illegal emission shop?
No, there's a dance
Just like the
studio in that one.
chiropractor and,
Let me look at that.
701 has to be right across the street from Olive Hall. Isn't 701 the old gas station?
Maybe it is the gas station.
Yeah, I think it is. So I believe
Yeah.
it's right across the street from Olive Hall.
okay?
Okay. Anyway, they're going to take that old gas station building and turn it into micro offices.
Oh, good. Isn't it just vacant right now?
It's, yeah, it's been vacant for a long time. Is a micro office the same thing as like a cubicle? Kind of my vision.
Yeah, so they have, I think there's a picture of the layout. Did I include that?
I think so. There's like a building plan on there.
Yeah, you'll see that there's just little offices.
Offices with like a couple bathrooms.
Mm-hmm, and it's like if you were running a business from your home, but you needed a place to go outside of it, you could just have your office there. An artist could use it for a studio. It's kind of that.
Mm.
There's a, yeah.
You're just doing a single story?
There we go, sorry.
Something we talked to this about?
There'll be less graffiti there. That'd be nice.
Seems like you wanted at least 2-story or something.
Yeah, it's only 1 story.
He's just taking the existing building, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
they're gonna,
Yeah, across from Oak Ridge Barbers.
Oh, that's that way.
Well, it's better than it being vacant, so.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, it's just spinning. I can't make it go down any further, but it had a restroom, and I think it just had like a small area for it's not a kitchen per se, but there was one other
A break area.
break there, yeah. It was the,
One thing about this site plan, and I'd really like the city to consider adding, and this is just, I don't think just because I'm a surveyor, but there should be a survey filed for all these improvements, especially if they're gonna improve the site.
yeah,
For instance, this
That-
is a really good reason why we want to do that, because then we would require them to dedicate to the city a portion of 40th Street. They don't actually own anything in 40th Street, right? Even though they say they do. And if,
You talking about that little strip right there?
that is, yeah,
is it owned by us?
it is.
So then it's not reflected in their site plan.
And I think we have that as something that we need to put into our code so that, that will happen. That's on
Yeah,
our
'cause-
to-do list as
Because
well.
in this particular instance, if we're looking for frontage or square footage that now, and we don't know that that parcel should be left out of this overall parcel, then is it a non-conforming lot to what they want to do, right?
So there's
Well,
not,
aren't there certain
not,
minimums on frontage or, so we don't have any,
not in this zone,
no, in this zone.
yeah.
So the way, well, if there's no frontage, then, are you showing me something?
So you have. So Mr. Doug over there did a lot of that. When we bought the portions of 40th Street.
When we redid 40th Street, they did
Yeah.
a lot of takes, they had to widen it, so we took a lot of frontage.
And
Right.
he
And then-
kind of dealt with all of that.
Right.
So,
So to me, the number one problem with 40th Street is that we never, ever did a road right-of-way plan. So we don't even know what we own, do we?
We
Other
do
than
know,
the deeds?
I would say we do know what we own.
yeah, because we have all of the deeds under file and everything. What we don't, and I don't know why they didn't lot it with the,
Yeah, so I've been involved in a number of like UDOT right-of-ways and right-of-ways in other cities. And yes, there's a lot of parcel acquisition, but in the end, when it's all said and done, there should be a road right-of-way plan filed at the county, right? And so, but right now, we don't really have that. Like, we don't even know if 40th Street is monumented, so we can retrace that, do we? Like, and I guess my point in sharing all this.
So those are probably all good questions for our
Yeah.
civil engineer.
Yeah,
He probably could answer those way better than me.
I just, my main point is that if we're protecting the city
Mhm.
in any way, that, I mean, we paid for 40th Street to be constructed, the right-of-way to be acquired. Now we should probably monument it and let people know where we think it should be, right? And so, it's just protecting the city, right?
so
And it's
we don't
protecting-
have those little pieces, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like in this particular instance, Reeves and Associates should show where that road right-of-way is, and they don't even really know that, right? Or they're not, this site plan doesn't even reflect that, you know? Even though I think you're right, like, we have the deeds, but when they're putting these site plans together, those surveys are so critical.
Hmm. Yes,
Okay.
and we've talked about this before, and I know
Yeah.
that we've put it on a to-do list.
Yeah, because in those surveys too, like, it'll tell us, hey, there's an easement right here, right? Even with Stokes Stevenson and the Young Automotive Group, we could have just said, look, hey, where's your survey? And that'll show us every easement and beneficiary of those easements and, you know, everything that the city wants to know about it. But we didn't require that, I assume, right? I mean,
Is that something the civil engineer does?
it is, but I've done almost every project that I do.
Do you want
I
to do
have
another one?
submit- What's that?
I said, did you want to do another one?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're called land title surveys, right? And for them to buy those lands, they're supposed to provide a land title survey for them to get funding for, right? So that's just something that we would request from them, right? That they would already have to provide. And so, but it would give us all kinds of little clues and hints about what we're making decisions on here in the planning commission, you know. I'd be happy to share an ALTA survey for us, but
If you know of a good code somewhere. that
172317 of the Utah State Code requires that anytime a boundary is established or reestablished, those surveys should be provided.
So 17 usually has to do with counties in the state code.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a county requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, why didn't the county make us do that?
I don't know why. But
So
it is,
I guess what I'm
even in the
asking,
subdivision code, like in the subdivision code, you're required to, like as a land surveyor myself, I've got to certify that I did a survey of this property.
which we do for a subdivision ordinance. But
And
this,
that's- so
this
it's in two
wasn't a
places and-
subdivision.
Yeah, in two
So-
places, in 172317, and then the Utah subdivision code, I don't remember what, 56,
I'd like to see a city code that says that it requires like a title of survey.
but that's what I'm saying, is I think in city code, we should require that item.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how we do that, or, I mean, have you seen surveys, like how they would benefit the city?
I have not. I think what Lisa's getting at is if it's a requirement, there must be other cities that do that, and so we could look at that and see, is that something that we could copy, or is
Right.
that in fact a requirement for cities, or is it best practice? So
Yeah.
those are some things we
Yeah.
could research and come
Yeah,
up
for
with some
sure.
ideas.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help. Yeah, even though our city may not necessarily require it, it is a state code that we're supposed to follow, surveyors and engineers should be following.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's meant to protect, you know, the public, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at, is that if we're trying to protect the citizens of South Ogden, those surveys would really, really help us.
Okay. Let's move to items, Roman numeral 7, other business. Is there other business from anyone?
I think Doug told y'all that he was leaving us.
Yeah, probably not for a while, but
He,
I probably have one more meeting.
he may or may not have one more meeting.
Can we move to deny the retirement?
Go ahead and move away.
All right, did we have any online public comment? We did not. Okay, any other public comment? That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, Madison, if you're still there. Enjoy San Francisco.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem.